fast on this side. I think I'm Big Meech.
What up, what up? Welcome back to the channel. I'm J and we're locked in. This is the recap for BMF Season 3, Episode 4. Now, in this episode, we see Meech returning back to Detroit because Loco just sent him a shipment that they got to make sure they get taken care of, because this right here is what's going to develop their name into the BMF that we know. Also, when he gets back here, Terry has his own issues that we're going to talk about, and it's looking like things are starting to clear up in the city because Meech and Terry have established themselves. Now, before we jump into this and we break down this episode, if you like BMF content, live after show discussions, breakdowns, theories, and predictions, then hit your subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so you get something every time I upload. Make sure you hit that like button. I'm on that road to 50,000 subscribers, and I appreciate each and every one of you. So if you don't see this video at 100 likes, hit that like button for me. But enough talking. Let's jump into it. Break this down. This is BMF episode 4, the recap. We start the episode off with Meech and Loco rolling up. Now, we got to clear our minds at this point. Loco ends up getting a phone call. Now, who's on the other line is Cena's connect. Well, it's Cena's plane driver, his pilot. So he speaks English, and Loco's partner doesn't understand it. So they give the phone to Meech. Meech talks to him and asks him, does he want his money up front or later? Now, the reason he asked this question is because the feds, whenever they do an exchange, they have to do the money up front. So it'll be a hand-to-hand. Now, Meech finds out that they aren't feds, and Loco says, I want you to go to Detroit to do the shipment. Also, he has to go back to his house and tell Angel, hey, listen, you can stay at my crib. Do not go back and work for Greenie no more. Back at home, Terry's at his diner. Now, Wanda's over here and she's eating, and he gets interrupted by our boy Hoop. And Hoop is like, where's the next shipment coming from? Terry's like, don't worry about that right now. But once Terry goes in the back, he finds out that Meech finally showed back up. Now, all of BMF is showing love because, you know, Meech is the one that initially put everyone on. But he steps over and talks to Terry and lets Terry know, listen, we got a shipment coming in. I'm going to need some help. But you got to fall back at this moment because Loco, he doesn't really mess with you. His first impression of you was very, very bad. And you know, first impressions, that's what really leaves a mark on someone. Jen and Brian finally have a conversation with each other, and we find out what happened to those 2 bricks that Detective Brian had. Well, she ended up replacing them, and this is the first time that they spoke to each other after the shooting happened. Now, remember, he was riding with Henry's people to do an escort on the ambulance to make sure that the work gets dropped off, and Jen was following Cuts, the PA boy. These two collided, and she gets shot. Now, they're having a little back and forth, and Brian is saying, hey, before you report me, remember, I know you done some dirty stuff. Well, Detective Jen, as I mentioned, she replaced those 2 bricks. So as of right now, no one will ever know what she did that was dirty. Everything will point back to Detective Bryant if and when she files a report on him. Terry's having issues with his CPS, the Child Protective Services. Well, him and Marquisha, they devise a plan. They go to do a little bit of gambling, and she goes and talks to this judge. Now, this judge knows her through Boone. And Boone used to pay him a little bit of money, a little bit of corruption, and you get things taken care of. Now, we do see Terry handing off some money to the judge. Like, hey, listen, we're going to make something happen. We'll make something shake for you if you can get CPS off of our back. So once he gives the money, they get interrupted. And Henry shows up. Now, you have to remember, Henry's father, Blaze, used to be a police officer. So she knows a few things about what's going on. And she tells the judge, don't be messing with Terry and Marquisha. They're bad business. And then she tries to flirt with Marquisha a little bit, but we know Marquisha ain't going for it. Henry's been very, very upset with what Terry got going on. Now, word gets around that Meech has re-arrived back in Detroit. So she's telling Detective Bryant, if Meech is back, it's got to be a big deal. Now, remember, she's upset because Bryant in the ambulance situation didn't go according to plan. So she's saying, listen, if Meech is here, you need to find out because I want him and his brother Terry off the streets. Now, he does do a little mentioning about how Blaze, her father, has always been good to her, but she wants to take over the operation. And removing Terry and Meech is the best way to show her father that she is worthy enough to be in the top dog out here in these streets of Detroit. Once the pilot shows up from Loco, well, things aren't according to what we initially thought we were getting. We thought we were getting 250 bricks, only to find out that it's 2,500 bricks. And the pilot isn't going to help Meech unload any of this. So he has to call Terry and tell Terry, listen, I need you to get anyone with a driver's license because we got 2,500 pounds of cake that we need moved and we ain't got enough hands for this. Little Nikki is growing up right before our eyes. Now she's at the house playing video games, Mortal Kombat, with her friend Breeze that we met at church. Now she does go to school with her, but they're getting a little close. And out of nowhere, Lucille shows up. Typically she works a 12-hour shift. Well, today she came home for lunch instead of getting her a Wendy's double. And she sees Breeze with Nikki in between her legs. She says, y'all need to go home before the street lights come on, and y'all need to get the hell up out my house. Little Nikki's being fast, and Lucille is pumping the brakes on that. Meech has to move 2,500 bricks on his own. Now, 1 kilo here, 1 kilo there, but 2,500, that's going to be extremely heavy over time. Now, the pilot, he isn't helping at all. And the reason the pilot isn't helping is because, hey, my job and my only job is to fly this work down here. So you need to go ahead and take care of this. And no one's here to help Meech out at the moment because we're trying to gather up some people to actually help us move this 5,500 pounds from point A to point Z. And also the pilot's like, hey, Meech, while you're doing that, can you give me some more chips? We know that Henry put Detective Bryant on Meech's case. Now, moving his 2,500 bricks, Bryant is following. The pilot ends up having to use the restroom and they pull over and Meech finds out that Detective Bryant has been telling them. So at this point, he is very, very nervous because you never know what Bryant is going to do. Now, Meech ends up calling the pilot and saying, hey, we might have a problem, but I have a plan. Now, 2 police officers did pull up into this diner. So what Meech did was call the pilot and tell the pilot, hey, talk to the 2 police officers and tell them that there is a black man that has been following us for a couple of blocks and you believe that he's going to rob you because you are a pilot. Now, this plan works because when Meech and the pilot get ready to pull off, the cops, they start to question Bryant. They find his gun in the vehicle, and just like Bryant, they put him on the wall. Terry finally gets CPS off his back because she came to meet up with him at the diner, and they have a little sit down. Now, his whole crew is here, and he already told them what the plan was. Y'all act like you are customers, and we're going to make this look like we got a nice little business running here, even though we know it's a front. She shows up, and she asks Terry, what would you do if this restaurant gets shut down? Well, he's saying, listen, it doesn't matter if the place gets shut down. I am a good father. And that's all CPS needs to know about. They have a good living condition. And of course, if he has employment, but we'll worry about that if I get fired. What you need to know is I am a good father. Now, after this, his whole crew, they were over there trolling, pretty much saying, hey, waiter, no onions. Get us an extra mac and cheese. But after she leaves, he tells everyone, get out of here and go get us some workers. We need to put this work on the road for Meech. Detective Jen and Amberson have been trying to piece things together. After the shooting, they kind of been in limbo where they're trying to figure out, okay, what's next? How are we going to move? Well, they find the VIN plates or the VIN numbers to the ambulance that was burned down, and it leads back to an address. Now, when they go and knock on this guy's door, he says it isn't him, but they know it is, and they jump through, they throw him on the ground. Now, you hear Detective Jen making some jokes about getting some hot fudge or some kind of sweets or snacks after this arrest, because Amberson's been saying, hey, you get somebody some ice cream, they'll be more than willing to cooperate and tell you what you need to know. Now, it's an inside joke, and at least they got somebody, and we might be able to get some answers from them. Markeisha and the judge finally have a one-on-one, and he telling her, when you met Boom, Boom wasn't nothing until you propped him up. And she's like, that's what I do. Now, the judge wants to know, what do you see in this young man, Terry? And she's like, listen, let's stop all the small talk. He has connections in the streets, but I have documentation here that shows all of your bribes that you did with drug dealers, aka Boom. So unless you can handle this CPS situation with Terry, who is a good father, then I will be releasing this. And this won't look good for you, Judge, because it's a re-election year. And if the wrong people get this in their hands, then it's over with for you and your career. And trust her, she's not fronting. She's not bluffing. She has copies. So the judge makes it happen. Meech and Terry had 24 hours to move 2,500 bricks. Now, they were selling them faster than they ever sold and for lower prices than what they typically sell them for. But this is making a name. So now we're seeing them count money. And how they count these stacks, they count them by $1,000. $1,000, rubber band in the middle. After you get 5 stacks, you put 2 rubber bands around the end, and then you stack them up. Now, Meech and Terry were very meticulous with how they did this. They move work fast, and the money was always counted nice and neatly stacked. So that's why the plugs liked them. They didn't want to use a money counter because it wasn't as efficient and it wasn't as accurate as hand count. So they ended up teaching the rest of BMF the $1,000, $5,000 bundle recipe. Everyone is in town, so little Nikki puts together a plan to have a family dinner. Meech shows up. Lucille is happy to see him. Terry had to leave Marquisha to come over here, even though she got the CPS play to work. Meech is back in town, and the good news is Terry is keeping Terry Jr. and the kids. Now, when they sit down, little Nikki puts together a prayer. And after this, she tells everyone she is grown, and this is where it all implodes. We get us a Diana moment. Little Nikki starts to expose everybody. How am I moving too fast? I have 2 brothers that are dope dealers. I have a mom that's been giving googly eyes to a doctor. Mom and dad are getting a divorce because Charles had an affair with Miss Mabel. So everyone's looking like, what the heck is going on here? And they send little Nikki to the room. Lucille has been visiting Dr. Maurice, and we know that Charles seen that $10,000 check. So he was already looking at it like, man, what are you doing with Dr. Reese? Well, she went there earlier to get information about little Nikki, putting her on contraceptives. Well, later on that night, after this family implosion at the dinner table, she shows back up. Only this time, they get a little closer. They get to kissing. Dr. Maurice puts her against the wall, but she says, wait, we should probably stop this because I am separated and maybe this is a door that's opening up for me. But no, we can't go through with this. She stops it and she goes back to the crib. Later on that night, we see the kids, well, not the kids, the young men and their little sister Nikki playing Mortal Kombat. They're in here and Roland ends up showing up. Now, Roland, he just had a baby. Meech has been sending him money, Gucci for the kid. And Roland is saying, listen, I have a family and I want to be out the game. Now, initially, he thought that Meech was going to be upset with him. But they're like, nah, man, you our boy. Plus, you live across the street. So if we ever need you, we'll just come and holler at you. So Roland is out the game. That means someone else is going to have to get promoted within Meech's organization. But Roland is still in the good graces. Now, Meech does end up getting a phone call. Terry says he might come down to Atlanta with Meech. But Meech does get this phone call, and it's from Stacks. Now, remember, Stacks already said he wasn't messing with Meech. So Meech says, listen, we'll bring you back into the organization, but it's not because of me. It's because of Ty Washington. The whole time, we've all been thinking that Stacks may have been crooked. He may have been dirty, and he is. He's working directly with Glock, and he tells Glock, Meech and Terry will be down here. Now, Glock's plan is to have Stacks infiltrate BMF, take out Terry and Meech, and in return, he will take out Remy Ransom and the Techwood boys for Stacks. So now Stacks and Glock, they will take over Atlanta. And Meech, he doesn't even know what's going on. Or does he? You know, Meech always has a plan. So he might be thinking, let me try to play this guy just like he's trying to play me. All right, there you go, to recap for episode 4. Let me ask you guys a question. When Meech came back to Detroit, do you think that Henry really wants Meech, or does she really want Terry? Because I know that she's been putting Brian on the case, but Brian has been failing in every turn. Is it really Meech that she wants to go after, or is taking out Terry good enough for her? Let me know what you think. I'm ModeIJ. If you like this kind of content, or I said something that make you go, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'm on that road to 50,000 subscribers, so I appreciate each and every one of you. We only need 3,000 more. And if you don't see this video at 100 likes, hit that like button. Thanks for watching. I'm ModeIJ, and I'm out.